You see it. You hear it. You feel it. It's different, but it's fine. It's not how you live, but who cares? You have your challenges, and they have theirs. And that's the ground you can stand on together. Have you ever heard the saying, if we all threw our dirty laundry in a pile, in the middle, how quickly you'd pick up your own? So what does that mean? Well, it means your problems seem pretty big. But if you could only see how hard your friends and neighbors have it, if you only knew their real story. But in this case, nothing seems real. And the truth? Well, you're living in a fairy tale if you think we'll ever know the truth.
There has to be somewhere in her life that it just stopped for her. And so reality is not reality to her, and everything is a storybook. And she is her own main character in her own story, and everybody else are extras.
The Toll. I'm Nancy Simpson. This episode is called Main Character. Gypsy Rose Blanchard spent 8 years in prison after convincing her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, a man with autism, to travel to Springfield, Missouri from Wisconsin to kill her mother. Stole the knife, opened the door, and waited in the bathroom, she says, as he stabbed Dee Dee to death. That's the story we've been told. Then the two headed to Wisconsin. Gypsy testified against Nick while painting a picture to the public that her mother kept her sick and conned the world. Her mother, Dee Dee, was tagged a person afflicted with Munchausen by proxy, a parent or caretaker keeping a child sick for attention. It was something Dee Dee was never diagnosed with. And then citizen detectives started asking for public records, which painted a much different picture. Laying it all out piece by piece, it appears Dee Dee could no longer wrangle Gypsy, who was nearly 24 years old. It appears Gypsy was again stealing her mom's money and meds, and Dee Dee may have been making arrangements for Gypsy to live elsewhere. Allegedly. And this story, again, keeps unfolding day by day, little by little, piecing together clues. It also appears Dee Dee was very sick. Could it be that Gypsy didn't want to care for her mother? Wanted the house and car without Dee Dee's watchful eye? Every day there's more to this story unfolding through old emails, Facebook messages, police reports, and even GPS coordinates. But we'll never know the whole truth, and after talking to this neighbor, I'm even more confused about a few things. For many years, Dominique Gabriella lived on West Volunteer Way, north of the city limits of Springfield, Missouri. She's a petite woman, pretty red hair, very kind. She invited me into her home and after a while told me a harrowing story that included some domestic violence and a crash that took her right arm. You can tell she wraps her words in compassion. Today, she finds joy in helping local musicians. She does promoting and marketing for a program called On the Scene. She also helps with an international organization which advocates for disabled singers and musicians, and she's a freelance writer for a statewide magazine. Dominique lived a few houses down from Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the next line of houses over. After knowing the couple, being their neighbor for years, most would be super curious after the murder. Follow the case, every detail, no matter how small. Seek out answers. Not Dominique, no. None of it made sense as it unfolded. And then when the story about Dee Dee emerged, the story that Dee Dee kept Gypsy sick? No way. That was not the mother-daughter duo she knew. Kept her little, childlike, okay, but not keeping her sick. Gypsy was just sick, right? She says Dee Dee loved Gypsy. Hurt her like that? On purpose? No. Someone told Dominique Gypsy could walk. What? That was her reaction. I Live Here was a news anchor and reporter in Springfield, Missouri during the murder and Nick's trial. Here's pieces of my newscast at the time when it was playing out. Sheriff Jim Arnott says this has been rough on his deputies.
It's a very emotional thing, and it's emotionally draining. But then the discovery that you found someone alive that you were looking for, great deal of relief. And then it goes back to very disheartening when you really unearth the plot.
Sheriff Arnott warns to not give to any fundraising accounts for this family, not even for Dee Dee's funeral. He says Gypsy can walk fine and carried her own luggage. Defense attorney Mike Stanfield says Gypsy had put up with a lot of abuse from her mother throughout her life, and he says that played a big role in this plea deal.
It became abundantly clear as we went through more and more and more of the records that, Gypsy's mom was abusing her physically, medically.
He says most of Gypsy's teeth aren't her own because of the medication she was forced to take. Greene County Prosecutor Dan Patterson tells me this drop to second-degree murder and 10-year sentence still holds Gypsy accountable for her actions.
While also taking into account the extreme mitigating circumstances of the nearly 20 years of abuse at the hands of her mother.
During her sentencing, she told the judge she only had a second-grade level of education. It's hard to get many folks to talk about this. Embarrassed they got duped? Hurt? Yeah, a lot of hurt. This is a giving community that wrapped their arms around a single mom struggling with a very sick child. I was there during the initial press conference. Sheriff Jim Arnott said this.
And I want to start off with saying things are not always as they appear.
And I think it still applies today. Turns out, though, Gypsy really was sick. More evidence is unearthed every day thanks to requested documents under the Freedom of Information Act. And thanks to her doing countless interviews, TV shows, documentaries, The Dr. Phil Show, writing a book. It's hard for her to keep her story straight. A lot of what I'm referring to here are her own words, her own writings, her own contradictions that paint a very different picture. Gypsy admits she was sick. It appears doctors did not know her medical issues were caused by a chromosome deletion, diagnosed with that rare genetic condition known as 1q21.1 microdeletion. That was around 2011. It was a new find in the medical community, and it explained almost all of her ailments growing up. Evidence appears to show Dee Dee was actually trying to get her sick daughter help. Those endless, needless surgeries? I don't think they happened. Losing her teeth? Her medical records show poor oral hygiene. And Gypsy admitted to using a bottle, on a podcast, messages to Nick, in her book. After her microdeletion diagnosis, what doctors couldn't answer was why Gypsy couldn't walk. As the story unfolds, Gypsy showed Nick in a video she actually didn't need a wheelchair. And the story goes, she revealed to her mom in 2011 she could walk. And she shot her mom in 2011 with a pellet gun. She says she thought it was a real gun. What? It's in her book. There's medical records, Facebook posts related to it. I don't know. After that, things get even more blurry.
I look more and more like a 13-year-old. As you can tell, I have a lot of clothes that look like a 13-year-old. I'm wearing like a Hello Kitty little dress. Before I met you, I had plans to become a nun. And I didn't really know if that's what I wanted to do with my life. I'm your slave inside and out and every other way, and I'm here to serve you. And I won't fail you whenever I know that I'm supposed to do a specific task, sir. And I did end up getting a knife, and I hope that it will be adequate. And I got tape and handcuffs, and I hope that will do. And like her, I'll do and say and speak and practically be your little puppet. I wasn't about to throw us under the bus and be like, well, yeah, I'm seeing, a guy that 2 years ago talked me into having a BDSM relationship with him, that's the kind of lifestyle I live now.
Okay, I'm good. I know it's kind of hard to hear at times, but you can go see all these videos and more at Into the Weeds podcast on YouTube. Every document and video is linked in there. Knock yourself out. A reminder that this is a grown woman in her 20s, not a child. There's one more I want to address before we move on, though, and it's Gypsy in this video to Nick. She says she's been in a fight with her mom for 4 days.
I wanted her to maybe help us out with things like a living situation in the future. I don't think she will. And that was kind of depressing for me, because it's realizing that we have to do all this on our own. And you and I both don't make much money. What I want to do is save enough so we could at least have us a nest egg all back on. Like, we need a car, we need a house, we need money.
But here's what you notice very quickly. There's no mention of her mother abusing her, medically or otherwise. In videos, emails, Facebook messages, not until it came time to craft a defense after she guided an autistic man named Nicholas Godejohn to murder her mother. Then they made Dee Dee out to be a monster. Even sweeping fraud. I'm not saying Dee Dee was perfect by any means and didn't squeeze money or gifts out of organizations or people, but her daughter was sick and, in my opinion, mentally impaired. Although, obviously, Gypsy played that up for attention and whatever else there was to gain. When Into the Weeds podcast requested documents concerning fraud with Dee Dee and Gypsy, like police reports, investigation files, court records, and any related documents from any investigation between 2011 and after the murder of Dee Dee, nada. The letter back from the Greene County Sheriff's Office reads, "It is our position that such a fraud case does not exist. Therefore, we have nothing to provide." But many aren't convinced, and there's more stories emerging every day. But I'm just saying that it doesn't appear to be to the degree it was made out to be after Dee Dee's murder. If I were you, I would start with the interrogation videos. Watch those first. Let's get some things out before we dive into Dominique's stories, her viewpoints. When the murder happened, she saw a little bit of the news coverage, but it was shocking and sad, and she did not consume herself with it. Besides, her son had lost his friend. She has watched the HBO show, the Hulu show, which she did not like because things were made up, and she has seen a few of Gypsy's videos to Nick. Not many, though. She can't. We'll talk about it. So all that to say, she has not lived in this story post these new FOIA releases. And even the emails prior to these videos? No. So keep that in mind as we move forward. And I tried not to tell her a lot to sway what she might say, but I did tell her a couple of things, and her mind was blown. Now, these are her experiences as she remembers them during that time from people who may or may not have been telling the truth. And because she doesn't follow this stuff closely, many times she has no idea why I'm asking certain questions. I need you to keep that in mind. She's helping us with the timeline and stories from that period to help fill in the blanks as she remembers them. Dominique has a cat. His name is Smokey. He's a Siamese, and he was bound and determined to be part of this project, and I absolutely let him. And lastly, Dominique wants you to know a message she said time and again. These were sweet, kind, generous people to her. Things like
giving everybody a gift for Christmas, like every house, like a gift. So, we like you being our neighbor, and just very kind, very, very kind, sweet people. They weren't even going to give me tickets to some Comic-Con event. They wanted me to come with them, and I was unable to because I was working at the time. And they did give me passes to me and my son, a year pass for Fantastic Caverns. So again, just very sweet, very kind.
She says they always presented themselves as optimistic and happy, even when the chips were down. And also, something was off. She knows I'm here to see if she can help fill in some blanks for content creators who are keeping a meticulous timeline. I will not be explaining to you, the listener, every backstory. Besides, with all of the information being uncovered, it changes every day. If you need a backstory or want to learn more, I can guide you to some credible creators who have been in the trenches. Into the Weeds podcast on YouTube has emails, documents, and videos they have worked so very hard to get and organize. I highly recommend you take a deep dive. It's fascinating. This is also about trying to get to the truth. Dominique says she moved into her house just after Dee Dee and Gypsy, 2008. Like I said, a few houses down. The Recorder of Deeds records shows that she moved out in 2021. They both had Habitat for Humanity houses. It's a global nonprofit that builds and renovates safe, affordable homes for families in need. The families buy them through affordable mortgage payments. With these homes, you have to take classes. You learn things like budgeting, managing a mortgage, home repair, emergency preparedness, and stuff called sweat equity. That's when she first met Dee Dee and Gypsy Blanchard.
I met them both when I think we were going around in a circle and introducing ourselves in the class. And they seemed very, very sweet. I mean, they both kind of sounded childlike. I mean, obviously Gypsy was a child, but even her mom just seemed kind of very bubbly and just, I don't know, just childlike. That's how my first impressions of Dee Dee was. She seemed like a very, very sweet woman that's probably gone through a lot, but her just way, I could understand why Gypsy was the way that she was, because she was so much like her mother. I mean, the way that they talk, the way that they just are. So I don't know how to explain it other than that.
She does that a lot. Talks about them in the present tense. Asking her to sum up the mother-daughter duo, Dominique just can't find the words.
Don't know how to explain her. I've never met anyone to act the way that they do. Just almost like breakable, like a doll, like just fairy tale. Disney is their whole entire life. I don't know how to explain it. I've never met anybody like them ever since. Everything felt like it was real when talking to them, but something always felt a little off. I don't know how. I'm sorry. I just remember the interactions where it's like, well, they're very nice people, very, very nice people. Something doesn't seem a little right, but I'm sure I'm just overthinking that. They're fine. They're very sweet people. People don't normally act like this, especially this childlike. I mean, both mother and daughter, they just seem very alike, like they mirrored each other in a way.
Dominique says Gypsy would leave town for treatments because she was sick. And the story? It was tragic.
We all thought that she had leukemia or cancer or something. So we didn't question, why she was there. And what my understanding is she was in the Katrina, and all of her medical records were gone. I mean, we saw pictures of her home, what it looked like. And so everything was lost. And supposedly that's why when she came over here to Missouri and getting established with all the health, the medical care and stuff like that, I think the reason why they were able to get past all of, the diagnosis from before, the previous diagnosis, because all of it was lost in the hurricane. So it made sense. Yeah, it made total sense. I mean, her story.
To Dominique, Dee Dee was a single mom with a sick kid.
That Gypsy's dad was not involved in their life. She didn't really talk about him at all. So just kind of left it. She just said that she had a really hard time, that Gypsy's dad was not around, did not help her. And that was my understanding. I was just glad that her and Gypsy were safe from the Katrina, because what she told me, I mean, it just sounded horrible in those pictures. And Gypsy's wheelchair had gone, and so they had to do whatever they could to get a new home. And so they felt like Missouri was better. And I don't remember how they got up here, what the reason why they came up to Missouri, but...
Single mom, sick kid, hard pass to running from a natural disaster, getting a fresh start after being shipped to Aurora, Missouri, and then Springfield. And now, this house. Got it. Dominique says she went on walks and would see Gypsy outside on her motorized wheelchair, alone, or with the girl across the street. She would see her and talk to her quite often.
She would sometimes, I was like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I just watched, whatever movie, Disney movie, with my mom. And, oh, I just love this part where, say it's Little Mermaid. Oh, I love the part where Ariel got her legs or something like that. She would just talk about what's been going on in her life, what she's learned in school, what her mom and her have been up to, whether she just got back from somewhere that she got tickets for. But she was always telling me that she was going on all these adventures with her mom.
And Dominique and Dee Dee both homeschooled.
So Dee Dee would share curriculum with me and different resources to look up because I was just getting into homeschooling my son.
She says she'd been in their house.
I got to see it when it was being built. That was one of the houses that I helped in because that was some of our sweat equity hours. We had to help on other people's houses, help build or paint, Yeah, I've been in her house before. And not just before it was built. I stopped there a couple times to talk to them, visit with them for, I don't even remember what reason, but just did.
A handful of times, she later said. So not best friends, but friendly. Neighbors. She says the last time she was in the house, though, was about 2 months before the event, as she calls it. I asked her if the place was a mess. Trash bags, stuff everywhere. No.
It had to have been like 2 months before that I saw the inside of their house. The times that I have been in there, I have never gone past their living room. I could see their kitchen area, but I was just sitting in their living room and it looked fine.
I showed her crime scene photos of the living room and kitchen. Big black bags everywhere. A cluttered mess. Her reply? That seriously looks unrecognizable to me. That is so extremely shocking. Seeing Gypsy throughout the years, she says, was so confusing.
Because there would be sometimes she looked so frail, like she was going to die, and then not. But a few weeks later, everything was fine again. And her hair was always looked freshly shaved at times. And Dee Dee said the reason why she does that, because it just doesn't really, it's just patchy. And so she wants to, clean it up. So she'll buzz her hair. So, yeah, and we thought that it was coming out in chunks because of whatever treatment it was.
That's one story that was steady, though. Gypsy was sick with what Dominique was led to believe was some kind of cancer.
Oh, yeah, cancer, leukemia. I can't remember the whole story, but it was some type of treatments that were making her super sick, and she had to get transfusions and had to take all this medication. And they would have like fundraisers sometimes at their house where they would have videos, like movies shown on the side of their house for all the kids to come watch together outside. And all the food that they would sell, popcorn and candy and stuff, all the proceeds would go to help Gypsy, in her medical treatment.
And sometimes this treatment would hit Gypsy harder than others.
She looked very sick. She just almost like she wasn't able to talk that much. Or like her mom would talk more for her. When she would start talking, she's like, well, Gypsy, unfortunately, Gypsy had something happen at the doctor's office and she's just kind of out of it right now. It just seemed like she was just very sick, so she wasn't able to talk for herself. And Dee Dee would talk for her.
I asked her if she ever saw Gypsy throw a fit or be unruly.
If I really thought about it, I'm sure there was probably times she was getting frustrated with her because I just there's no way that you could just be that happy and cheery and just everything's fine all day long and not get frustrated with something that your child has done. I mean, I have a child too, and I understand. It's just like they're not perfect. Sometimes things will happen. But I never saw her get too frustrated enough where she was like scolding her or where I would be worried, like, oh my gosh, what did Gypsy do? Geez, I never saw them argue in public.
Dominique says one thing is for sure. Dee Dee was a very positive person. I asked, sometimes too positive?
Yes, sometimes. Just take her in doses. Like when sometimes you just can't be around somebody that's just so incredibly just that way all the time. It's like, come down a level.
I asked her if Dee Dee's demeanor seemed fake.
Yeah, sometimes it did seem fake. But again, I'm not going to question somebody's personality if that's how they are all the time and it doesn't look like anything is wrong. But instincts, yeah, it seemed kind of fake.
And Dominique says this was Dee Dee's constant level, at least to her.
Oh, yeah, what I could see, at least what they showed to me. I mean, again, I wasn't as close as these other people were. But what I saw, it just something never seemed like real. They didn't seem very real. It seemed like they were all in their own world, their own make-believe world of Disney and Marvel and all the pretend.
And she says Gypsy was always very positive too, even when surfaced talking about her health issues.
Gypsy said, but everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. I got some bad news at the doctor, but everything will be okay. And then Dee Dee would speak more on it.
And Dominique felt bad for Dee Dee.
I can't imagine what this mother is going through because of always having to be at the hospital and all these doctor appointments because of her daughter, not knowing how long her daughter will live because of whatever medical issues she's going through. So it seemed like Dee Dee was always trying to stay positive all the time.
I asked her if Dee Dee expressed concern to her that Gypsy might die.
There was times that she would say that, she just wants to hold on to her little girl as long as she can, So when that day may come that she can't fight the fight anymore, then, at least she had a good life. So it seemed like a regular mother caring for her sick daughter, a single mother caring for her sick daughter, making the best life that she could for her little girl, since she's sick.
Dominique says she thought about the two many times.
And I was always thinking about that day that Gypsy passes away. What's Dee Dee going to do with her life? Because that's her whole entire life has been to take care of her child by herself. And as far as I knew, Gypsy's dad was not involved in their life. So for Dee Dee to lose Gypsy one day, I've thought about it many, many times when she was so sickly looking. When Gypsy was so sickly looking, and I'm just like, oh, it's going to happen any day, any time now. What is Dee Dee going to do after this? I mean, that's so sad.
I'm going to give you some answers to rapid-fire questions I asked Dominique. Most of these she looked at me like, what the heck? Okay, here we go. Did you ever see Gypsy dress like a boy? No. Drink from a bottle? No. Drool? No. Have a cell phone? No. Wear a diaper or a pull-up? No. She says when Gypsy needed to go to the bathroom, Dee Dee would help her. Did Dee Dee talk about her mail being stolen? Yes, she answered, but Dominique had a problem with that also. Her mailbox was down the street in a separate section from Dee Dee's, and she says she never saw Gypsy down the road that far. Did you see Gypsy eat? No. She was thinking, though. But she doesn't recall seeing Gypsy eating candy or popcorn during movie night at their house or class night for Habitat.
When we would go through like the potluck, we'd all line up to get, pizza or whatever it was. I don't remember. I don't remember her being in line. I don't remember her sitting down and eating with the rest. I don't remember any of that.
We circle back to it.
No, I don't remember. No, I don't. But I do know that, I've seen Dee Dee eat, that's a strange question. I never thought of that. But no, I don't remember Gypsy ever eating. I thought she just didn't eat because, her sickness. You don't have... My mom had cancer, so she barely ate. So, yeah.
I chuckled. I said, you do look perplexed right now.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I don't remember her ever eating, but I do remember seeing Dee Dee eat. Yeah. So that is strange. So, yeah, I just thought, again, it's just something that happens because my mom had cancer. She couldn't eat. So, of course, Gypsy isn't eating because she probably is not hungry because of her treatments.
Were they ever specific about Gypsy's illness?
some type of treatment. I didn't know. I can't remember. I really thought it was leukemia, but yeah, she told me that she was getting treatments done.
One thing Dominique was adamant about, she never saw Gypsy out of her wheelchair.
Yeah, I never saw her out of her chair. Ever. Ever, ever, ever.
Okay, so let's take this story to about 2 months before the event, as Dominique calls it. The murder. Dee Dee. Dominique walked up on Gypsy outside of her home. Gypsy in her wheelchair.
She looked very depressed. Something was up. Obviously something was up, and I was taking a walk, and she did not realize that I was there. But because I startled her when I said, "Hey, Gypsy, are you okay?" And she's like, "Oh, yes, honey, I'm fine. Yeah, everything's fine." And then she turned around and wheeled back up and went to her house, inside her house. And yeah, I mean, it was very strange. But my son, who I don't even remember how old he was at the time. He was young. He was probably 11 or 12. But he even was like, "Mom, is everything okay with it?" I'm like, "I think so."
Something else stuck out during that same time frame, 2 months or so before the murder.
I remember knocking on their door for some reason I don't remember, and Dee Dee barely cracked it open and had her robe on, but it was like maybe 4:00 in the afternoon, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. I just can't. I'm sick today, and come back another day." But it was weird because I heard a bunch of yelling outside. So I think that's the reason. I just know that I went there. I was on my way there and I heard a bunch of yelling. And so it just didn't make sense. Like, okay, so now you're acting like you just woke up, but I just heard stuff. And I can't remember the reason why I was headed to her house. I just remember I was headed to her house and I needed to ask her a question. And she acted like she just woke up. So I'm like,
She says Gypsy seemed so sad toward the end and had lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Lots of weight. She looked just very frail. And she, in her face, it just looked hollow sometimes. Like her eyes were just, it was her eyes. A lot of had to do with her eyes. Like something just, she looked sad. She looked very sad. And it was towards the end of all of this going on when the event happened, is like something was, she was hiding something. But I don't, you can't tell. You can't just judge.
In emails and messages, we see Gypsy talking about how she'd go days without eating and put herself on restrictive diets to lose weight. She also loved cosplay. Dominique's reaction when she learned Gypsy was almost 24 years old at the time of the murder? Did she ever suspect that?
No, absolutely not. It always seemed like she was a lot younger than she actually was. And we all thought that she was younger than what we ended up finding out she was. Just very childlike.
I asked how old she thought Gypsy was during this time frame, and she said, around 15, 16.
Well, for one, being in school, so, and just the things that she was learning, the curriculum seemed a lot younger than what she would give some, what her actual age was. The topics she would talk about, and it was always fairy tales. That just happily ever after, just wanting to live her life the best she can. And she loves these stories about finding Prince Charming, which now thinking about it, it's very interesting because of her boyfriend, and she just loved Disney movies so much. I just keep going back to that. She just loved the fairy tale life. She loved fairy tale books, anything fairy tale she would talk about.
I told Dominique it's coming to light that Gypsy could walk all along, and revealed to her mom she could walk in 2011. Again, she doesn't follow all this stuff, so she was so confused.
Like, why? Why would she, unless Dee Dee didn't want everybody to know too, because that she would have felt. Yeah, I never saw her out of her chair, ever, 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 ever. And when I saw her, just before all that stuff happened, she was just wheeling in her chair, and she just seemed very sad. Dee Dee seemed distant at that time too. Like, obviously something was going on, but I don't know what. and I didn't want to pry. But yeah, something that just seems weird to me.
I asked her more about Dee Dee during this time, toward the end.
Dee Dee, I figured that she had some health problems because of the way that she ate, because I knew some of the stuff she ate and it just wasn't healthy. And she said something to do with circulation issues. It was always Gypsy that had the issues, and Dee Dee would tell us the update of what the doctor said that day at the, whatever happened at the doctor's. So she would update us on Gypsy, but I've never heard anything about her.
I asked Dominique about Dee Dee's snacks. I'm putting this in here because even as much as I know about this story as it unfolds, I don't know what might be important to the storyline or the timeline. No shaming. I like sweets too.
Like moon pies and stuff like that. It's sweets, lots of sweets. I think she made some like jambalaya once, but that's not bad. But I know she would cook, bake, and stuff like that. She would have cookies for people. But I figured that she baked them, not, buy them from the store. When we would go to the classes, we would eat together because they would have dinner, sometimes so they have pizza there or something. And then people would bring, potluck stuff.
I asked Dominique about the shed next to the house. The one Gypsy and Dee Dee turned into a playhouse.
Little dollhouse when they finished it. And she's like, oh, look at how, I get to play out here and play dress up. And yeah, it just looked like a little dollhouse. And with all of her wigs and princess stuff, Disney stuff.
I asked, did you ever see anything weird happening in the shed?
No, never.
Ever feel like Gypsy had been locked in the shed?
No, never. I would hope that she would yell for help or something. Her neighbor, the one that's directly right next to her, I'm trying to think of her name. She would come out every once in a while. She was a lady that had Down syndrome, and she said that she came out to see how Gypsy's doing every now and then, and she was always home. I would think that she would have heard Gypsy if she got locked in the shed or something, because her bedroom was right there on the side of where the shed is, as far as I know, because her house was pretty much laid out like mine.
So if Gypsy was in the shed and yelling, this neighbor would have heard her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and even though that she was kind of to herself a lot, I'm sure she would have called her mom. And her mom was over there every single day, to come visit her daughter. So, yeah, I'm sure that one of them would have heard something.
I asked her about the moment she heard something had happened at Dee Dee and Gypsy's place.
I remember that I was on my walk, and then there was some of the neighbors were kind of grouped together like, hey, have you heard? And they told me about the Facebook post. I'm like, what the heck?
She talks about her memories from that day.
I know that some of the neighbors were just knocking on the door really loud. That when the police got there, I remember that one of the neighbors got to climb in the window, and they told them not to, touch anything because they were still waiting for, what is it called? So they could enter the property. Yeah, they weren't. Yeah. The neighbors well, they know, Dee Dee and Gypsy know me very well. They let him go through the window, but he was not allowed to go into any of the rooms and just walk through. And I guess he kind of tried to look in Dee Dee's room, and I guess that's where they found her or something like that. But he didn't see anything because she was on the other side of the bed or something like that. I don't know. It's just he said that he didn't see anything, and it was very, very, very cold. He said it was extremely cold. The temperature was at the lowest it could go for it to be cold in there. I do remember that.
I asked Dominique to clarify. Did she see the neighbor go in through the kitchen window? No, she says she did not, but added that would make the most sense because of the way the house is laid out. But she says one thing really stood out.
But I do remember that we all were extremely, extremely scared for Gypsy. And like her chair was there. It's like, well, what is she going to do? She can't walk, so why is her chair here? Where is she? And so, yeah, we were all very scared. And I know that like the neighbors were trying to go to the next neighborhood to see if they had seen anything. But yeah, I mean, myself, I didn't even know where to start looking. So, yeah, we were just shocked.
I asked her if she's seen any of Gypsy's videos, and as I've mentioned, she says she's watched a few clips, but it made her sad.
I've worked with mentally handicapped people in the past, like for 4 or 5 years. So I saw her as that, like one of them that doesn't have the mental capability as a normal person. I just felt extremely sad for her because she obviously is not very well. She doesn't know how to grasp reality. It does not seem like she knows how to grasp reality. And it really, really felt like she is so desperate just to be loved. And that's what she wants. She wants her own fairy tale and, the happily ever after that she would read about or watch. So I just felt extremely sad because that is not a well person. She is definitely not well. And how would anybody even be that way unless they're shown somehow to be that way?
I get it. It's really hard to say what was happening in that house behind closed doors. I asked Dominique about the idea that Dee Dee duped a community out of free stuff, organizations out of trips.
I was thinking, I'm like, well, if her mom was really keeping her from basically growing up, was she really wanting her to stay young? So she is doing whatever she can to keep her on this ride of fun adventures. So she is a very resourceful person. I think she was like a, what is that word? What's that word I'm looking for? A hustler. She was a hustler on getting what she needed to survive, for her and her daughter to survive.
She says it's all so sad and goes back to Gypsy admitting she could walk when she was living with her mom and just didn't tell Dee Dee. Again, she didn't know this until I told her.
I just feel very sad for the situation because, yeah, where is the monster? Who is the monster? It's like, why did Gypsy even start being this way? To have that mentality of, oh, well, I need to keep this up so I get all the attention. Where did that come from? Other than her mom, instilling that that's the only way that good things will happen for you is if you be this way. So yeah, where is this monster? Where did it start?
She does wonder if Gypsy was causing so many problems, why didn't Dee Dee reach out for help?
If she started finding out that her daughter was doing these certain things, why didn't she go and talk to a counselor? Why didn't she try to get help? Like, hey, my daughter's doing this, and I didn't know this was happening this whole time. Why didn't she try to get help? Why didn't she reach out to get help? If I was the mom and I found out my son was doing these things and hiding these things, I would totally be going to therapy, like right off the bat, because that's not right. Dee Dee is the adult. Why isn't she not getting help for herself if her daughter is doing these things? If her daughter is that bad, why isn't Dee Dee getting help? Why isn't she reaching out to her family members?
And it appears through newly discovered records that Dee Dee had been headed in that direction. Dee Dee had Googled stuff like, what do you do when your kid steals your medicines? The Greene County Sheriff's Department, Rural Health, which helps with mental health, shelters, and a place called Rare Breed. It's a resource center for homeless youth. What was happening in that house? Could that be why 2 months prior, when Dominique was in the house, things were fine? And then the crime scene photos, there's bags everywhere, everything pulled out, strewn all over. Was someone packing? I asked Dominique about Gypsy making these videos in that house, logistically. And she wonders too, asking, was Dee Dee gone a lot?
Unless she's doing this late at night, but how the house was set up, Dee Dee could hear Gypsy talk, unless she was a very, very sound sleeper. Just because I'm thinking about where her room was and where Gypsy's room was and where the room that was basically the homeschool room was, you're going to hear her making these videos. There's no way, because I know in my little house, which was a 2-bedroom, you could hear everything in there. So if my son's on the computer playing video games, I am going to hear every single thing he is talking about. So that's where I'm like, when is she making these videos? So yeah, a lot of things were not adding up at all.
HBO, she remembers the film crew for Mommy, Dead, and Dearest coming to town. People flooded the neighborhood.
After that documentary came out, everybody would come out from who knows where just to go see the house. And so we had people just drive. I mean, there's kids playing in the neighborhood and people would just be like flying down and just to see the house, take pictures with it. And it was insane. We had to have a patrol car for a while, just to make sure that our houses were being left alone because of all these travelers to come see the house. It was crazy. Basically a daily thing. Yeah, we had somebody patrolling our neighborhood, especially at night, because there was way too many people that were just coming to go see the house.
Dominique commented on one of my videos, and she agreed to talk to me, give me her perspective. But before now,
I just didn't want to be part of it. It just felt like a lot of people just wanted to like, oh yeah, I knew them. So let me tell my story. And I'm just like, no, I'm just sitting back and watching it all unfold. But yeah, a lot of it just didn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense to me. So the reason why I agree to it now, because, even though I haven't been following it close hand, I know from personal experience what I saw in them. And I just felt like it was the right time because this is the way I knew them. This is what I saw of them. And so all this other stuff just nothing makes sense. Everything that's out does not make sense. They were both not well in the head. Could say that. I'm happy that she, I guess, feels like she finally has a life. Like, it's very sad that she had to do all of that just to feel like she was a person, be able to grow up or whatever. But what is it that started this snowball effect?
The way Dominique has looked at it during this time since the murder, again, it's all so confusing.
I know that you could do as much as you can for your child. You could love them as hard as you can and want the best life for them as you can, but it doesn't guarantee that your child is going to acknowledge that and see it in the same light as you have, how their childhood went. So Dee Dee was trying to give her child the best life as she could with the resources that she had, because what I thought was, because she didn't know how long she was going to have her child. She did whatever she could to be the best mom she thought she could be.
She mentioned more than once that she's concerned for Gypsy's baby. She didn't know if it was a boy or girl. She just heard that Gypsy had a baby. When Gypsy first got out of prison, Dominique says she saw Gypsy on TikTok and reached out.
Saying, hey, just want to tell you, I'm glad that you got your freedom, and I'm sorry to hear what all of that happened. That's traumatic. I never would have thought that you were going through any of this, being your neighbor, and she never got back to me. She never responded.
Dominique says after the murder, she took psychology classes, partly because of this case and her experience with Dee Dee and Gypsy. And it also reminded her of a man she knew who had the mind of a child.
It's like, how does that happen? And where in the development process did they get stunted, and how does that happen? Because he was, 10 years old, but he was 24, it's like, how? Like, when did it just stop? So I thought that about her. It's like, there has to be somewhere in her life that it just stopped for her. And so reality is not reality to her, and everything is a storybook, and she's her own main character in her own story, and everybody else are extras.
Nicholas Godejohn is serving life in prison. Gypsy, a convicted murderer, is now playing the role of celebrity and is making money off a story that isn't adding up. I encourage you to research this case for yourself. What is being uncovered will blow your mind and unravel everything you thought you knew about this case. The Toll.
Things are not always as they appear.
The Toll podcast is a production of The Toll LLC. Creator, investigator, host, and audio producer, Nancy Simpson. Executive producer, Pamela Shelby. Original intro by Jay Lashley. Music by Veslian Studios. Reproduction or use of any part of this broadcast without the express permission of The Toll LLC is prohibited. Thank you for listening. Like, rate, share.